Tonight, the story of three uncommon heroes coming together, combining all their goodness and might for a wonderful task. It's a heartwarming story tonight on True Crime Tuesday. So, welcome to True Crime Tuesday. My name's John. I'm an active 911 dispatcher in the field. I've been a 911 dispatcher for about 8 years. Joining me, as always, is Kendra. Kendra is a former police officer, and she may hold a future in law enforcement again. We don't know if that just means selling her plasma and then going out and anemically hunting bounties, or going rogue, or we don't know what all that will entail. She may just make up her own future cases for True Crime Tuesday. But folks, this is the show where we bring you cases, real life true crime cases, not civil stuff anymore. We stopped doing the civil things. We stopped presenting true life cases of like breach of contract and car accidents and private parking lots. We no longer do that. But now we tell stories, and we do it from a police perspective or a real life perspective. We're not just people who do lots of research on true crime cases. I can assure you that we do that, although it's not always. So a mixed assurance there. But Kendra's a former police officer, and I'm a 911 dispatcher. That means every time a criminal case comes in, I'm the first person to hear about it. I do a lot of groundwork investigating. And then someone like Kendra on patrol goes and does further investigations. And sometimes she just goes ahead and solves it. Sometimes she gives it to a detective so that they can feel good and make a career out of the hard work that she's done. But we know more than the common person. We know more than the... So true, right?
I'm sorry, but it's true.
Absolutely true. You get all the credit. It's amazing how many police reports I have seen where it's just copied and pasted of my CAD notes. So I started typing all my CAD notes in capitals so that they would at least have to retype it. So we know a little bit more about how criminal justice and how cases work. We know why and when police can and can't investigate something, or when they can and can't arrest someone. And so it's a little bit different than your typical, whiny white girl drinking her coffee complaining that the police aren't doing their job, as is so often is the case on some of these inferior true crime podcasts. So before we get into that, I just wanted to check on Kendra. I haven't seen her in not since last year because this is her first episode of 2024.
It is now 2024.
It's a shocking new year. I can't believe it's been 4 years since 2020. I can't believe that I'm this old. I turned 40 this year. I've got a lot going against me. Not a lot to look forward to as the lights dim on my life and I enter the last twilight days of my existence. But how was your New Year's Eve? How was your New Year's Day? Did you watch any football games, or tell me in great detail the truth of exactly what happened to you just within the last 48 hours? Did you have a good time?
Well, first of all, I would like to say thank you for all of the inside joke references that literally no one listening is going to get. Like
nope,
the anemic,
just for me and you.
The anemia, and maybe one day we should start writing these down and then publish them as like
it would be nice if the public could know about anemia, but they do not.
That's why I laughed so hard at that. I realized how confusing that would probably be for someone who had no idea what we were talking about.
Kendra thinks weak people are hilarious. Anyone who needs help. She's very...
I love me a good invalid. Yeah, it's great.
Sometimes she drives to the store just to see people parking in handicap spots, and she just laughs and laughs.
It's my only source of entertainment since the New Year.
It's actually the reason why we're doing tonight's episode, because we were talking about the case of someone who was forced to be an invalid, and she finds that to be especially funny.
Yep. No, that's why I chose it.
Yes, but circling back to you being locked into a story of the truth of your life, how were the last 48 hours for you as you rang in the new year? Any family traditions? Now that you're a separate family from me, given that we're divorced, I don't know what your family traditions are anymore.
Literally, the only tradition that I do is I try to stay up until midnight, and then I usually don't. And I drink some wine. And if I feel like it, I make that like, like the yeah, it's so traditional I can't even fucking remember what it is. The beans and the collard greens and the cornbread. I don't know if that's like a southern thing, but it's like pork and beans on New Year's. I don't know why. But and then that's pretty much the only thing that I do. I'm spending New Year's probably alone by choice, just hanging out. It's like you said, it's been a long 4 or 5 years, and New
It
Year
hasn't been good. I saw a meme recently that was like, if you're like 39 years old, which really spoke to me as a 39-year-old. It says if you're 39, like you basically have gotten to the point where you don't expect good things to happen anymore. And it just was like the last couple of years have really done that to me. I don't know if it's just because I'm really reckoning with middle age, or if just because the suck really has come on pretty hard since 2019 or what. But yeah, it's just hard to look forward to anything. But New Year's tradition for me, I'll go outside in the crisp, cold air under a blanket of 1,000 million stars, and I'll lift a small snifter of whiskey, and I'll drink to world peace to finally come at last. It never fucking happens, Kendra. So it's always a waste of time every year. I should just go to bed at 8.
It sounds like a nice tradition. Well,
yeah, it also sounds kind of made up. So
I am turning 30 in the coming days too, so that's exciting, I guess.
Yeah, way to remind everyone that you're significantly younger than me. It's one of 1,000 reasons why your parents never approved of our marriage. They said it was creepy and wrong. And then I said I was just in it because I knew someday we'd be divorced and forced to do a podcast. And this is when podcasts are still kind of a new thing. So, you get into things and you're not real sure why you did them.
Thanks for your foresight, because this is great.
Yeah, I'm glad you're having a good time.
What are you doing for Christmas?
What are you doing for Christmas? Before we get into it, I just want to remind you guys, we're on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you for doing that. Hit like, hit subscribe, so you can keep up with true crime and other shows on here. Otherwise, you can go over to Rumble. If you don't like the president and the military-industrial complex controlling what your entertainment is and what your thoughts are, you can go over to Rumble. They should be a little bit more loosey-goosey with the whole mind control thing over there. Also on Spotify. Listen to us on Spotify. Leave us a 5-star review over there. If you're listening to us in Apple Podcasts, leave a whole long review in which you praise me specifically, and then I will read that on the air. So I would appreciate it if you would do that. But before we go any further, we got to pay the bills. So I just wanted to say thank you again, of course, to Ghost Bed. Folks, Ghost Bed's an awesome company. They're great. Okay, they make beds and they make bed stuff that goes with beds, pillows, sheets, blankets, mattresses, and all this. Go over there. Use our offer code WOLFPACK. You can get 40% off straight out of the gate on everything that they have over there. Check out their website. They've got lots of cool stuff, proprietary cooling technology, stuff that will amaze you while you're asleep. You'll be completely unconscious and yet completely thunderstruck by the sleeping experience that you're having. Vivid dreams of actually being asleep is what we promise you on sleeping on a ghost bed. Go over there, check out their website, use our offer code, like I said. Make it very easy to do, right? So like they got 0% down, 0% financing. If you have the credibility of a woman who would abuse her child for 24 years, you could probably go over there and still get a ghost bed. They really do make it easy for just about anyone to do. We appreciate Ghost Bed, of course, because they're the only mattress that's made in the good old USA.
Are you doing this on purpose?
Hey, we finally synchronized, and then you gave up. We finally get on the same page, and you just walk out of counseling. I mean, you just stopped doing.
Yes. I'm sorry. I'm a little bit of a quitter. It's a flaw.
You are. Well, I mean, yes. But I mean, what do you mean? Did I do that intentionally? Did I thought slowed down to synchronize with you? Yes.
We were synchronized on the first one, and then you did a long pause when I started. Never mind. I don't think that's Continue.
True.
Okay.
Folks, if you think that I'm right, I want you to go ahead and indicate so in the chat, saying John did that correctly and then Kendra did it wrong. This is a benefit that we never had while we were married, was that we could, have basically spectators weigh in and and say what kind of job we're doing. But if you think that I got that right and you think Kendra gave up on it a little too quickly, just go ahead and indicate there in the chat. So I'd appreciate that, Will Cray. I appreciate that, Michael Hendricks. I appreciate that, Faulkner. Thank you for and Abby, of course. Yes. Thank you. I appreciate that. Also, let's also talk about Factor meals, folks. We just had a whole season of overindulgence, right? You know, between Halloween candy that you ate all the way through till Thanksgiving, and then you're eating the leftovers of that till about Christmas time, and then having given up on your own self-image and your plans for the future, you just ate Christmas food all the way through. Now you're like, well, I want to change my life. Well, one way you could do that is through excellent planning, right? Meal planning, going to the gym. It's that time of year where we were trying to put ourselves back together. Instead of living on a whim and giving into your cravings, why don't you go ahead and, when you're of clear mind, right, decide now what you're going to eat. You're going to fill up your life with delicious and healthy food, whether that's a nice lean chicken breast, some nice buttered asparagus with a little bit of lemon on there, or whatever it is that's part of your weight loss goals or whatever's going on with you. Go over to Factor Meals. They have over 300 selections. You can pick out some nice meals that will help you with your diet and all your planning. You can get all this done in advance. They're going to bring the food right to your house so you can avoid the temptation of going to the grocery store and going over to the self-serve bins where the chocolate-covered peanuts are and just feeding yourself until the managers chase you away. You can just have the food brought to your house. You can avoid the cold weather because it's January. It's bitterly cold. And you can go home from work. You can come home from the gym and you can have a nice meal there, and it's all set up and it's prepped for you. And this is going to help you get on track, folks. Factor meals is something that a lot of people use to control that aspect of their life, particularly if they have, weak willpower. I love food, so having meals set up and prearranged for me is a huge part of it. So go over there, use the code Wolfpack50. You can get 50% off. You can start leading a better life today. Let the rational part of you decide the food that you should be eating. Send a gift of reasonable thinking and good meal planning to yourself in the future. We appreciate Factor for working with us another year. Use the code Wolfpack50. Go over there and try to make some sense out of your life. We appreciate it, Factor Meals. Kendra, we're talking about the story of Gypsy Rose. It's a case of gross child abuse.
You've done it.
Mostly because her name was Gypsy Rose.
You made me big again.
I made it, but not the biggest. Like the biggest was this. Like we decided against that.
I hate this so much.
But we did the normal side. We just did side by side and it was fine. You don't like that? You like this?
No, I don't like this.
You like that?
Whatever you want to do, John. It's okay.
Well, I have to cut it into reels later, so it's like it matters a little bit.
It's okay. You can do whatever you want. I was
This is
just giving
good,
you
right?
crap. Yeah, this is fine.
Okay. You were just giving me crap. Yeah. All the years we were married. All right. Anyway, so now we're talking the story of Gypsy Rose, a young girl. She was born, just after the turn of the millennium, I guess. I'm not real sure when exactly she was born, but
91.
Oh, so, not accurate information right out of the gate. She was actually born in the year of our Lord, 1991. At the very end of the 20th century, actually, is when she was born. But this is a case of extreme child abuse. When I was listening to the podcast, it drove me nuts because they would all be like, hey, trigger warning. If you are upset by the idea of a child being abused, like, you need to skip this episode. And like, they got through all these long trigger warnings. I'm like, I'm not going to get upset by this. I'm a grown man. I'm not going to break down in tears hearing a story. Like, I'm not dead inside, but I'm also like, I'm an adult. I can handle things. And then I had to hear all their stupid commercials, which aren't even nearly as good or as funny as mine. And so it was a real struggle just to even get into this case. But why don't you start talking about what the hell happened here?
Okay, so like you said, she was born in 91 to Clauddine or Dee Dee Blanchard and her father Rod Blanchard. They hail from the great state of Louisiana, and Gypsy Rose is her name, Gypsy Rose Blanchard. She unfortunately was born into like you said, a little bit of an abusive situation. At 3 months old, her mother, Dee Dee, kind of told people that she being Gypsy Rose, was experiencing seizure symptoms and showing signs of like paralysis almost. So she started taking her to doctors to get checked out. And it didn't really seem that weird at first, but things started to escalate over the years. And by the time Gypsy was like 6 or 7, she was in a wheelchair. Later in interviews that Gypsy did, she says that her mother put her in a wheelchair after she was in a motorcycle accident, which sounds dramatic, but Gypsy says she just scraped her knee. So I don't really know what kind of accident it was, but Dee Dee took her to the hospital and told her, the doctors gave me a wheelchair, now you're going to be in a wheelchair. Forever. And it kind of rose suspicions in people, but she was getting diagnoses from doctors of different ailments throughout the years. And as Gypsy was, yes.
Didn't this start even sooner, though? Like right after she was born, she made some case that Gypsy Rose had sleep apnea as an infant, which of course is pretty serious. She went in and, no tests were really done. And the doctor gave her a breathing machine. And then her father, who was out of the picture, they actually got divorced. They got married and divorced while in utero. Well, Gypsy Rose was just getting formed up in her mom's womb. That whole relationship lived and died like even faster than ours. And so the pops, Ron's out of the picture, but he feels bad about it. So he's like sending Dee Dee money every month to support this, to support the kid. Cause obviously like just raising a healthy child is a huge burden, but obviously Gypsy Rose has sleep apnea and all these other oncoming problems. So it actually like started right away that Dee Dee found out that she could get cash and attention from having a disabled child. So I mean, it really started right away, didn't it?
It did. And there is a long list of ailments that Gypsy Rose allegedly suffered from.
Let's hear them.
And I have granny notes for this. So you'll have to excuse me. There's a lot to this.
In no particular order.
In no particular order, Gypsy Rose allegedly suffered from seizures.
Diphtheria.
Paralysis. No. Seizures.
Gonorrhea.
Asthma. Leukemia. Muscular dystrophy. Anemia. Lung and heart disease. Another thing that Dee Dee claimed was that Gypsy had the mental capacity of a 6-year-old and she would never mature past that point. She had some sort of chromosomal disorder. And at one point, Gypsy was put on a feeding tube, a permanent feeding tube, where that was how she got her nutrients. Her mother would give her whatever. Who knows?
It's not as bad as that. It's actually way worse. What I heard was that Dee Dee gave her some sort of medicine that she didn't need that caused her to have an overactive saliva gland. So she was drooling all the time, and she took her to the doctor and said, look at her, she's drooling too much or whatever. She's, which can be an indicative of a lot of problems.
Right.
So the doctors removed her saliva gland, took it out, which I like making spit. It's a huge part of my digestive tract. Makes me look cool, when I'm spitting. Helps me behave in like terrible ways while in a fight. But anyway, so the girl no longer has a saliva gland, and they put in a feeding tube, like unnecessary surgery is the extent to which Dee Dee is making up bullshit, putting her daughter her healthy daughter under a knife, and forever changing her life in pursuance of this image of chronic illnesses.
So we're kind of just getting right into the meat and potatoes of this. Essentially, Dee Dee suffered, not suffered. She had Munchausen by proxy. So Gypsy was a victim of that her whole life. And if you don't know what Munchausen by proxy is, it is a mental illness in which someone who's in a caretaker function, like a parent or a caretaker, doesn't have to be a parent, believes or creates scenarios to make the person they're taking care of appear to have all of these illnesses that they don't actually have. And it could be for personal validation, for money. It could be for any real reason. But it is a mental illness.
They don't understand how people exchange love and care in a normal way. So they think that they have to do something to prompt that.
And it can be caused by child abuse in the person's past or any sort of thing that, like you said, skews their perspective or idea of what love really is. It's almost like, if I make you sick, you have to depend on me and you have to love me. It's kind of the way I think it goes. But she, one of the things that she would do, go ahead.
No, I think you're alluding to it, is like the whole leukemia thing was a huge part of the identity.
Yes. So one of the things that Dee Dee would do, and this is coming from Rod, her Gypsy's father, is that she had Gypsy on medications that would had side effects that would mimic symptoms of other diseases, and then she would get these diagnoses for the diseases based on the symptoms that she was creating by giving her child medication. And she researched and she did her homework on what combination of medications to give her. And as you said, her salivary glands were removed, and she had eye surgery when she didn't need to. She had a biopsy for muscular dystrophy done, which is a very painful procedure where they rip muscle out of your thigh. All these tests. And she lost her teeth. She had full dentures when she was like a child because her teeth rotted out of her head.
Well, if you don't have a salivary gland, that's part of it. Like your teeth,
Yeah.
your spit it breaks down food, right? So it's part of help keeping your mouth sanitized and clean that you have a saliva gland, because it begins breaking down food right in your mouth, like on a chemical level. So that's also something that keeps your teeth clean, is your saliva. So if you don't have that, your teeth and your gums and your mouth is just dry, which is terrible for germs. And of course your teeth are going to rot and fall out.
Yeah. And on top of that, the medication, and I don't know Gypsy's, everything that Gypsy was and did was controlled by Dee Dee. So I don't know how well she actually took care of Gypsy, like hygiene wise, or that could play a role in it. But regardless, this child didn't have any teeth. She was bound to a wheelchair. Dee Dee convinced her that she was mentally incapacitated, and that she couldn't walk, even though Gypsy later said that she knew that she could. And when her mother wasn't around, she would walk. She would get caught walking, and her mother, Dee Dee, would punish her physically. She would abuse her. And this is stuff that's coming from Gypsy. And Dee Dee is no longer here, spoiler alert, to defend herself or say, no, that didn't happen. But given the facts, I believe Gypsy. And it makes perfect sense. One of the big questions that came out of this case was, well, Gypsy, why wouldn't you say something to the doctors? Why wouldn't you say something to your neighbors if you knew that you were kind of healthy and you were trapped in this like prison that your mother put you in? And she said she was afraid, obviously, but she was also isolated from everyone. She never went to school. She's never been formally educated. She was not allowed to speak to her family. She was not allowed to have friends. Her mother was her only source of social interaction, her only source of knowledge. And if her mother told her to do something, she would do it, because there were punishments if she didn't.
Yeah. I mean, when you're that age, your mom tells you not to talk to the doctor, that's what you're going to do.
Yep. And that's what Dee Dee would do.
When you say, why didn't she tell the doctor, you're ascribing a level of adult agency to someone who doesn't have that.
Correct. And that is something Gypsy said Dee Dee would do as well. She would go into these doctor's appointments and tell Dee Dee, like, let me do the talking. You sit there and you play with your Barbies and you say nothing and you don't interrupt. And that's what Gypsy did, because that's all she knew. Like you said, if you're being told that you're a child and you're being treated like one, and your mother tells you to do something, you're going to do it. So this goes on for all of Gypsy's life. At one point, Dee Dee, well, at all points throughout this, Dee Dee was receiving money from charities, from the government. She had child support. She had all kinds of people.
She lived at home. She lived in at one point, a Habitat for Humanity house. She was receiving Medicaid. She was on Social Security disability so that she could be at home full time to raise her daughter. There was even some more fraud that was going on. I don't know if you have this planned for later in the story, but Hurricane Katrina came along and very conveniently destroyed all of the records of Gypsy's birth and life, to the point where Gypsy's date of birth was obscured and her mother made her out to be younger than she was by several years. And like her father was forbidden from talking to her about her real age for whatever reason. The dad just trusted her mom that, for whatever reason, informing Gypsy that she was an adult when she reached the age of 18 would somehow be upsetting to her. So she was constantly being infantilized and having to engage in lies about her status. And you have to remember too, she's being drugged a lot of the time. She's partially sedated. She's not always with it. So is she taking part of this, as she learns more and more about her life, and as the situation with her mother becomes more abusive, she's starting to figure out her mother doesn't have all her best interests in mind. You have to remember this went on for her whole life, from when she was a baby all the way up until she reached adulthood and beyond. So she never had any semblance of independence or her own identity outside of her injuries or anything like that. She never, when she started to make friends and connect with other people, that was when things started to change.
Yeah, she, as you said, after Katrina, they received a home from Habitat for Humanity. I don't know if she paid for it or if it was given to her.
I think it was a special thing, because actually at one point when they were in the ruins or whatever of Hurricane Katrina, somehow the Blanchards managed to make their way onto TV, and they pled their case on TV. Like, Hurricane Katrina was obviously awful to even the common person, or even to the person who was doing well for themselves. And she says, like, we have nothing anymore. It's just me and my daughter. My daughter has all these illnesses, and now we don't even have a home. And so charities reached out to her and said, like, we see that you're a special case, but we're also going to make something of this, for themselves or whatever. And so they were given a house in Springfield. So she was given a cakewalk on a lot of things here. Like, to say that it paid off big time, that she abused her daughter and made it out to be this case of chronic illnesses and this bleeding heart case of, extreme tragedy, it really paid off, because Dee Dee, never had to work after that at all.
Yeah, one of the things that Dr. Phil did a special with Gypsy Rose, and he called Gypsy Rose a cash cow for Dee Dee, and that's exactly what she was. She benefited from from Gypsy financially, and she received hundreds of thousands of dollars throughout Gypsy's life. She received, obviously, a home, free stuff, free trips, all kinds of things, because
Disneyland,
people believed that this girl was some tragic laundry list of illnesses, and in reality she was perfectly healthy. Now, obviously, over time, I'm sure she wasn't, because of the medications that she was given, but
and
there was
having unnecessary surgeries, right?
Yes. And yeah, the whole thing is wild to me, because the doctors that gave her these diagnoses and did these procedures, I'm wondering, how do you do that? How do you get away with faking illnesses, as faking leukemia? There's a picture of Gypsy ringing the bell when you're cancer free. How does a doctor who's testing levels, and I don't understand this. I will never understand this. But there was one doctor that we know of, just one singular doctor, because what Dee Dee would do is, if she didn't get the answer that she wanted, she would shop around for a doctor that would. So I'm obviously, whatever doctor is giving her diagnoses and doing these procedures are quacks, and they should not be licensed to practice medicine, because this should never happen. It's
way more common than you think.
I know it is.
My sister had she had a whole bunch of things that were actually wrong with her. Like, she was on the Asperger's spectrum. She had oppositional defiant disorder. She had a whole bunch of things. Her life was pretty miserable, but she also had a really terrible mom. And her mom, I don't think my mom had Munchausen's, because certainly my mom never enjoyed any like status about. I mean, my mom would often draw attention to herself, either with how hardworking she was or how put upon she was. So I'm not sure that it was clinical Munchausen's, but it was definitely her identity that she was a hardworking and put upon mother that no one understood. But at one point, my sister is on medicine, and she's on so many behavioral control meds that they're at like a toxic level in her body. And I know that at one point, a doctor that was treating my sister has since lost his medical license, because doctors either from being unethical quacks, like you said, or they're just being a bias towards believing moms.
Yeah.
The third thing is being unethical, being quacks, believing moms, but also just whatever. I'm going to bill your insurance that I had you in my office today, and then you were getting these treatments and you were getting these meds, and I'll let you know. You talk about a cash cow, having a patient in your office, and especially if they're well insured or if they're receiving government funds, you just you would rack that up as much as possible. You would go ahead and encode as many treatments and plans and things on there as much as you can. It's like bill padding, because that money is going to come straight from the government. So if you have any doctor's office that's anything short of like perfectly ethical, of course they're going to just do whatever and throw whatever on there. So those three things, I think, for sure combined, probably often that result in children being mistreated and abused medically.
Yeah. And by the time Gypsy was to the point where she was on all of these treatment plans and things like that, she had a long history because Dee Dee had been building it since she was 3 months old. And there were plenty of doctors that had chart notes, all kinds of stuff. And I know that doctors rely very heavily on notes, like charts from other physicians. And if another physician is telling this doctor, or it's in the notes, that yes, she has leukemia, yes, she does have these things, and she's been on these.
I don't know how you can get leukemia without a blood test, though. That's cancer. How come there's not a single piece of paper that says it? I'm just blown away by that.
I understand. I don't understand it. I don't get it. I don't know. It's just pure systematic failure on the doctor's part, and it makes no sense. Gypsy fell through all the cracks.
I get that she's shopping around for doctors the way people shop around for cops, but at some point, like when you go to a new doctor, they want your old medical records. The doctor needs to see your charts and everything to know how to treat you. How can you just have a pediatric cancer patient and have no record of their prior doctor's diagnosis? Nothing that says like she has this specific form of leukemia, and not run those tests yourself then.
I know.
How do you proceed from that? How do you just like take it for granted that a kid has leukemia? As a doctor, you need to know what you're treating. Why do they?
And leukemia in particular is very it's a very bad disease. Like it's very what's the word I'm looking for? Not rigorous. It's
pernicious.
It's very like hard. Like obviously all cancer is horrible, but like there's some that are like really bad. Like, pancreatic cancer is bad because you don't find it until it's very advanced. Leukemia is another one that's really bad because it's very hard on your body and it works very quickly. So it's like, how do you? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Here's the thing too. So somebody believes she's got leukemia, but she's actually not on chemo because her mom had to shave her head all the time. These pictures that we have of her where her head is bust because she's bald, which is the huge, like, have sympathy for my cancer child, or the here, seen in a wig. You could clearly tell it's a wig. She's got to, sedate or otherwise shave her daughter all the time. And there was one podcast I was listening to just in preparation where she kind of let it slide. She's obviously she's willing to work harder to obscure the truth of her daughter's health, that she is actually to just go get a goddamn job. But she let her hair grow out a little bit. She was pissed that her daughter's healthy hair was coming in and she had to shave it all off or whatever. It's like the amount of attention and detail and work you have to put into this kid to make her appear sick and to draw that sympathy. It's got to be harder than an actual job. I just don't understand it. But an actual job doesn't make people feel sorry for you. So I guess that's why.
Yeah. And like you said, I think the Munchausen speaks to the very core of the person and how they perceive love. And that's a need that all humans have, right? So if they can't fill that need by regular healthy interaction with other humans, and they have to do these horrible abusive things to other people in their life to feel that, they don't give a shit about the job. They don't give a shit about the person they're abusing. They just want to feel that validation and that love because that's the only way they know how to feel it. But there was one doctor that was mentioned. Maybe there were others, but the one that was mentioned was Dr. I'm going to mispronounce this. Flasterstein.
That is a made up name. That's why you're mispronouncing it.
Okay. Well,
Can you just
So-
like if I was gonna pretend to be a doctor, I would like put on the lab coat. Hello, I'm Dr. Plasterstein. Plasterstein. That would just
You're
sounds
just
like
naming-
a very made up name.
you're just naming things that are in the room.
Yep.
Just
And
objects around.
also for no reason, I'm two guys in a lab coat. I'm over 9 feet tall.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Yes, you're very tall, Dr. Plasterstein.
You just see like a hand like come up through the collar of your shirt and hand you a pen. Like, here you go.
Exactly. Yes.
But this doctor actually made an observation in his notes. He put this in his notes that says, quote, "This mother is not a good historian. Strong possibility of Munchausen by proxy." He's telling other doctors because he made Gypsy stand up and he realized like, okay, this person is not paraplegic. They clearly don't have muscular dystrophy because she's got healthy muscle mass and she can stand. And this pissed off Dee Dee because he started asking actual questions and saying, you know, she can walk. Why is she in a wheelchair? And it pissed her off and they left. And she told Gypsy, we're not going back to him because he's a quack. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And he felt strongly enough about that interaction to put it in chart notes, which is very responsible of him. But it's the only evidence in any of her medical records where this is a thing. And
Yeah.
I think
And what can a doctor do? You know, Child Protective Services is so anemic anyway. You know, even my own family desperately needed the intervention of Child Protective Services, and they visited one time, and I gave all the red flags, and they came up with a plan where my parents would fix themselves over a summer, and then they never came back. So
the system of go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Now you go ahead. I'm about to get off of a long tangent. People ain't got time for that. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to agree with you. As a former law enforcement officer, I worked with child services quite closely, and I worked with them a lot. And I do know that there are very good, hardworking social workers out there who have the right temperament and heart for the job, and they do everything that they possibly can do to help. But on the whole, as a system, it's bullshit. They do absolutely nothing. They do nothing. They allow children.
They appease the conscience of people who report things. Is essentially what they do.
I've watched abuse happen in front of my eyeballs while I'm on scene with down here it's DCF, Department of Children and Families. I have watched physical abuse happen in front of my eyeballs while I'm standing there with a DCF investigator. And I made an arrest because I watched it happen and they did absolutely fucking nothing. And it happened in front of their eyes. I made an arrest in front of their eyes. There was drugs everywhere. And they did nothing. They didn't even do like a full-blown report. It was anyway. So I could go on a tangent about that as well. And they're absolutely fucking useless as an organization. And they need to be either completely abolished or revamped. Like, get rid of them and start over.
Just to be clear, you know, if we've got somebody in the audience listening, we're not criticizing you specifically, because I bet if we had somebody on the show, they would come in here and say, I am so hampered and hamstrung by the government or the law, as you often were as a police officer.
Yeah, I understand that
and
completely.
There's so little that I can do. And I myself, you know, my heart is broken over the things that I am unable to resolve, because I know a lot of people who have washed out of the Department of Social Services or whatever because there's nothing they can do. They're just forced to confront the realities of the child abuse that goes on. Ultimately, it's because it's a government program, and because there's an inherent tension between how activist can we be to protect children, our most vulnerable in society, without having a government so powerful that it inherently has overreach powers. Like, we have competing interests, right? The interests of a child who's supposed to be raised by parents, like we all agree that's best, but then how do we decide and how do we investigate without broad sweeping powers to intrude on familial secrecy and privacy? You know, how do we balance those things out? And you can't really set up a perfect system to get it right to catch all instances or even most of them. So yes, we hate those Department of Child Services or whatever it is you call them. but it's because they're government agencies and because there's competing interests. So there's no way to fix that either.
Yeah, that's why I said I've tried to make it clear, like, it's not the actual social workers. It is some of them. Some of them need to be,
yes.
Some of them need to be put in prison, in my opinion.
Some of
them. I understand, like you said, as a former cop, there's only so much that you can do when you work for an agency or a government entity that is so deeply flawed that it just needs to be scrubbed. But that's my opinion on that. So take it for the grain of salt. I mean,
I just hate that we got complaints but no solutions. I generally hate people like that.
I know.
Because so often that's aimed at the police, where it's like, all cops are bastards and all cops are racist and all, we need to defund the police. And we're all like, well, that's not a very nuanced or thoughtful approach. But then you and I are just like, defund child services.
I know we're being hypocrites, but it's just infuriating.
At least we have the self-awareness to admit it and say, maybe we don't know it all. And maybe there is no perfect solution. So
well,
we've argued our way out of being complete a-holes on this one. Good job to us.
High five. I think that I think scrubbing it completely is a solution and then rebuilding it, but that would cost a lot of money. So I guess it's not a good solution, but whatever. Mm-hmm. Anyway, moving along. So this Dr. Flasterstein, made up person, he made these notes, went in her charts, but nothing happened. No other doctors really paid that much attention, or if they did see it, they blew it off. And
Munchausen is very rare, right? Like Munchausen and Munchausen by proxy are very, very rare. And there's some conditions where if you see it, you're just prone to reject it because it's like epidemiology is a huge part of medicine, and just the instance rate of a certain thing, like a dissociative identity disorder or whatever, it just makes it extremely unlikely. So if you see someone's opinion that there's possible Munchausen by proxy here, and everything that you would have to do to suss that out and just its unlikelihood, I could see why people would brush past that, particularly when ironically she presents the perfect image of a caring mother, which is totally what Munchausen's about. How do you get around that, right?
That, and Gypsy does have symptoms. She has legitimate symptoms. They're not caused by illness or caused by medications, and I think that was the only note in any of her medical records about Munchausen. So I do understand why they would maybe blow it off, but it's scary because that should be like an immediate red flag that you kind of investigate if you see that in notes, even if you think they're, over exaggerating, or maybe you're not perceiving that. You should still at least kind of maybe be like, but whatever. I'm not a doctor. I don't think that's another soapbox. I don't think doctors are called to the carpet enough over the shit that they do. And they kill people every fucking day, and they never get sued. But
anyway. They have liability insurance too. So.
Yep. So anyway, we're just calling everybody out today. Doctors, DCF.
It's everyone's fault but ours.
I know.
I'm the only one that does a good job in society.
You win society.
Forget that, like, I do the best I can, but people still die under my care as a 911 dispatcher. Forget the high number of criminals that you have killed out of anger.
Me? Yeah.
Yeah, wait, that was a huge allegation I just made on the air.
I know. Thanks a lot.
That is not true, people.
So moving along, let's change the subject. Let's get back to the actual, reason we're here. So this goes on for all of Gypsy's life, blah, 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 blah. They're in this house. They're in Missouri, Springfield, Missouri. The neighborhood they're in is, I believe the entire neighborhood is like Habitat homes. And so a lot of the neighbors have things to relate over. They come from struggle, and they're a pretty close-knit community. Gypsy starts to befriend one of the neighbors by the name of Leah. She's about Gypsy's age. And she starts to she's watching Aaliyah and hanging out with her and seeing that she's like, Aaliyah is a typical teenage girl. She's got friends. She goes out. She's got a boyfriend, she's doing all the things that typical people do. And it's causing Gypsy to really question, why am I not experiencing these things? Why am I not allowed to do this? And mind you, like you said, talking about the birth date, one of the things that made this whole thing super like explosive was that Dee Dee lied, obviously, to Gypsy about her medical conditions, but she also lied to her about who she kind of was. Like, she made Gypsy believe that she was a lot younger than she really was. And Gypsy basically found a birth certificate and some Medicaid cards that had her real birthday on it in a safe. And she questioned her mother about it, and it was met with some pretty big consequences for Gypsy. She was locked in her room for weeks on end. There was one point where Gypsy got on their shared laptop. They had a Facebook page together, and she started talking to boys. She started like a dating profile. And when Dee Dee found out, she smashed the laptop, threatened to use the hammer to smash Gypsy's fingers, allegedly handcuffed her and tied her to her bed for 2 weeks. So she's not just faking illnesses, she's being very abusive. And Gypsy is trapped in this prison, essentially. But despite all of that, Gypsy still maintained some sort of internet presence. And she was desperate to make connection with another human, basically. So she continued to be active on her dating profile, and she made a connection with a man named Nick Godejohn, who would be her boyfriend and later her accomplice. Nick
he's seen here in this photo, literally in the act of committing an embarrassing crime.
Rock and roll McDonald's, rock and roll McDonald's. Oh my God!
Another inside joke. So, what was his criminal record like? Well, on one occasion, Nick here, this upstanding citizen who's on a Christian dating website, just proves you can never trust anything. Spent some time at a McDonald's, the family restaurant with the golden arches, where you can get some chicken McNuggets, a quarter pounder, and then play in a ball pit, which is almost 90% urine free. He spent a day at McDonald's, 9 hours, in fact, looking at pornography on a tablet and presumably, although I do not know for sure, masturbating. And a whole shift at McDonald's, unable to resolve the quandary of how to stop this gross masturbating porno guy with nothing better to do than sit at a McDonald's for 9 hours, which is a punishment to me if I had to do that. To be in a McDonald's for 9 hours. I don't even like going to McDonald's for a few minutes. He's in there all day just hanging out, not working, somehow with incredible battery life on his laptop or his tablet.
9 hours.
Yeah, like, are you plugged in or what are you doing there, pal? Are you on McDonald's Wi-Fi too? Like,
well,
you'd think they'd have blockers or something. I don't know. Maybe
he probably wasn't. Well, the way the news reported it, they said the word fondling, but we all know what that means. Himself for 9 hours. Now, I'm sure he wasn't taking up the entire like minute to minute doing that, but whoa, that's just terrible. I don't even know how to begin to wrap my brain around that, so I'm not gonna.
9 hours ruining McDonald's. This man. If you even saw this guy at McDonald's, I realize that him making eye contact is like especially intrusive. But if you see this guy at McDonald's hanging out for like longer than 33 minutes, you should call the police. And that's coming from a 911 dispatcher who doesn't like it when people call the police.
I grew up. Little side note. We'll get back to the story. I grew up in a McDonald's.
Now I'm from McDonald's, and I got to tell you, this pisses me off because there's a whole long line of dramas that grew up and lived in McDonald's, and it was good. No, there were good people at McDonald's.
Oh my God, the Golden Archers cradled me as a young child.
I slept in the slide.
Yeah, I grew up in a town that was pretty small at the time, and one of the things to do was go to McDonald's after school because it was across the street from the high school. And
I've been in those towns. I get you.
Yeah, that's what you do. And we used to get run off because management didn't like us loitering. Like they would wait or fondling. They would wait.
Didn't even get to that point. As what I'm saying is like you were just mischievous, and they told you to beat it.
We weren't even being.
This guy's
that's a bad choice of words,
and no one tells him to leave.
So what's crazy is they would like sit and wait for you to be done eating, and then if you didn't leave within 5 minutes, the manager would come out and be like, "You have to go. If you're not eating, you have to go. Get out." So, and probably because I had problems with mischievous people beating it. I don't know, but that 9 hours is excessive to be doing anything really, except maybe sleeping. I don't know. So Nick,
not too long to have it. It's not too long to work. You can work for 9 hours, Nick.
Oh, that's
You could
true.
go do that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Anyway, so this Nick character and Gypsy hit it off. It's a love story. They are like totally just mad about each other.
Cinderella, her prince has come.
Yep. And they finally meet in March of 2015. I don't know exactly how long they were talking.
But there was a problem with that, right? Like, so she meets Nick on the internet on the old Christian dating website. She's not allowed to use the internet. She's not supposed to be using it. The whole thing is in secret. She's sneaking around while her mom's asleep, communicating with people on the internet, Nick being one. And so how do you broach the subject with your mom? Just, by the way, I have a boyfriend on the internet and I love the guy and we want to be together, but I'm not even supposed to be communicating with him. So how do we overcome the problem of we're separated, we want to be together, without me getting in trouble with my mom for violating the household no communicating with the outside world policy? So they formulate the first of many great plans.
Yeah, the first of like 2 great plans. So,
well, yes, it's first in a series of 2. So so their plan is this. She likes Disney films. Mom likes taking the girl out to show her off about the Blanchard family plight and get all that good old Munchausen good feelings. So there's a screening of the great classic, the Russian epic of Cinderella, as told by Walter Disney. It's going to be at a theater. So she's going to dress up as Cinderella. She's going to cosplay, which I guess at one point she had also cosplayed or she had been to a convention or something. Anyway, yeah. She's like, I'm going to go to this thing dressed up as Cinderella to show my mother that this was meant to be and to not be weird at all. You come to this children's movie by yourself, dressed up as Prince Charming. You know, don't come dressed as someone who would fondle themselves in a McDonald's for 9 hours. No, be less creepy than that. Dress up as Prince Charming. And my mother will see that it's meant to be, because obviously we both are super into the movie. You literally are Prince Charming. And in spite of this, so that happens. So they go to the theater and they meet. And then Gypsy Rose, she got to make a tinkle or whatever. She got to go potty. She sneaks off to the bathroom. Prince Charming also disappears at that same time. And the 2 first copulate an act of carnal love, unimpeded by others at the theater, the feeding tube, Dee Dee. they make the nasty in the bathroom.
John.
Sorry. I don't know other way to describe carnal engagement other than making.
Could just say they had sex. They just had sex, people. It happens, you know? They went to the handicap bathroom or the family bathroom, locked the door, and they had sex.
They were together in the biblical sense. Anyway. They did the dirty. So, gross, wrong, right? No one should have sex. These 2 are having sex. So
no one should have sex.
I don't
ever
think anyone
again.
should. Have you met people?
I know.
You look at this race of people and you think, let's do it one more time, one more generation. I don't think so. Like everybody cool off.
Everybody just quit that. Just stop.
Everybody stop it. Quit doing it. If I had the time and the ability, I would follow around everybody with a fire extinguisher and just I would be the argon to their flames of passion. It would be over with.
Ew.
What?
Nothing. Just keep going.
You to their passion.
To your passion.
Yes, ew to passion. Ew to child passion. And they're dressed up like Disney characters in the bathroom of the theater.
I don't think they're children at this
point. I can't
point.
believe you're coming out as pro-Disney theater sex between minors. That's your hot take for this episode.
They're not minors.
Well, she thinks she is. She thinks she's a minor.
Well, then John's... Yikes. Or not John. His name is
This
Go
is
to
the
John.
second week in a row you have confused me for the villain of the story. You said the same thing about Robert Mormon, where Robert Mormon's doing similarly bad stuff. And you say, then John went to the Blue Mist Motel. I'm like, oh, not John.
Well,
Robert.
in my
Why
defense,
do you keep confusing me for the villain of the story?
in my defense, his last name is Go to John. So I thought John. I don't know. Anyway, Nick. If Nick believes that she's a minor, that's another issue that we have there.
I don't know.
But anyway,
The issue of their minority doesn't. They're doing something that's illegal anyway, and it's bad for them. But anyway,
yes.
so so they have sex in the bathroom at the theater, and then so what happens after that?
Well, obviously they are like in love with each other. He goes back to Wisconsin, and they continue their love story, and they talk on the internet all the time. And they start realizing that they want to be together. They want to get married. They want to have a life
They name their children.
as any two people would who are in love, I guess. But Gypsy's like, just got one problem. My mom. What are we going to do about that?
This cruel oppressor who has ruined my life and continues to ruin it. Well, Nick luckily has a romantic side and a sexual side, which is scary because he's into some pretty fucked up shit. But luckily, he also has an evil side who's available upon demand. He claims that he's got multiple personalities or dissociative identity or whatever. He's probably just got a very low IQ and it doesn't have a Forrest Gump temperament. So he says, well, I have all these aspects to me, and one of them is evil, you know. And so she's like, well, I want to make sure I'm not, ever really in touch with this evil version of Nick. But so a plan is hatched, a perfect plan.
Yes.
Kendra.
The plan is that evil Nick, or Victor, a 500-year-old vampire. Yes, that is.
It's back, baby. The vampires
It's
are back.
back. It's back. His evil side is going to come down to Missouri, murder Dee Dee, and then he and Gypsy are going to run away and be together forever, unimpeded. This is the plan. So June 9th of 2015, so we're a couple of months after the Cinderella incident, a couple of Facebook status updates happen on Dee Dee's page, right? One of them is that bitch is dead. And then there's a second one that I will read to you aloud for the class.
I hope it's a poem.
It is a poem. It's a haiku, actually.
Is it really?
No.
Damn it.
I fucking slashed that fat pig and raped her sweet innocent daughter. Her scream was so loud, LOL. So these are two different statuses that happen within a couple of hours, and this is very obviously out of character for Dee Dee. So neighbors are rightfully very concerned. They go to check on her, and nobody answers the door. They call law enforcement to do a well-being check, and law enforcement looks in and sees basically like signs of trouble. They go in, and they find Dee Dee stabbed to death face down in her bed. They're informed about Gypsy's presence in the home, and they go look for her, and she's nowhere to be found. Her wheelchair is in the bathroom, which is kind of odd, but they basically are like, she's missing, right? So this investigation is kind of, I would assume, be treated like a home invasion kidnapping, which is kind of a theme we have in the show, apparently. They put out...
We should change the name of it to John and Kendra Invade a Home and Kidnap a Story or something.
A story. They've put the emphasis on a story, a fictional story.
This is just very like Ketty Cabin from like months ago. That's all.
And also, and the vampire slayings too.
I know. You ever get the feeling that like true people who go out and commit true crime for the podcast, that they're not trying hard anymore?
So do you think, are you saying that people do these things just so we can podcast about them? So we have content for the internet?
Are you suggesting that like they actually killed Dee Dee because they wanted to murder her?
What?
Do you hear yourself?
No, never mind. You're not picking. Never mind. Never mind. You missed what I was saying.
You missed what I was saying.
I did clearly. So that happens a lot. It's all right. Anyway, they put out this, they sound the alarms. Gypsy is disabled. She's can't take care of herself. She's got the mental capacity of a 6-year-old. She's missing from a violent,
which means she
crime
can't
scene.
learn anything beyond age 6, of course, obviously.
Obviously not. Good
No.
callback. So, everybody's freaking out. A couple of days go by, and they find Gypsy and Nick at his home in Wisconsin.
They're able to figure out the person who accessed Dee Dee's Facebook had an ISP address or an IP address, which you can actually reverse locate IP addresses to a physical place because your IP address is associated with your router or your internet provider. It's literally the same thing as a physical address. So we know that the person who accessed the address lives at this house. So it wasn't too much searching for the Missouri authorities to say, hey, this comes back to this house in Wisconsin. But they had another lead beside that too. They had talked to her friend and they said, who is it that's in their lives that could be responsible for this? And we're like, well, Gypsy had a secret boyfriend named Nick. And then, then they look him up, see this, they see the whole McDonald's masturbation thing. And they're like, yeah, this guy fits.
This is
probably
our guy.
A good candidate. And then, what's his last name? Godejohn. So then when they look up the IP address and it's like Mr. and Mrs. Godejohn, they're like,
that's it. That's our place.
The podcast that I said, the podcast I listened to says even the worst detective could figure this out.
That's great.
And then it opened up a realm of thought for me. I'm like, who is the world's worst detective? Because there's always someone who's the best, right? There's someone out there that right now is like the best detective on earth. And
Officer Randy,
possibly him. But then by the same token, somebody's the worst. And it's just, you just have to wonder, like, who graduates last in the detective class? Who is it that just like really can't do an accident investigation, but they're a detective? Who is it that out there is doing that? And you probably know that person, but
I was going to say,
anyway.
I have an image in my head of a particular individual that I know who was probably the worst.
Say his name surreptitiously at some point during the show. But anyway, so even the worst detective could put 2 and 2 together. That's what we're doing. So Wisconsin authorities going out there, and they take Nick Godejohn and Gypsy Rose into custody. And when they go get her, she's like, yeah, I can walk and all my illnesses are fake. They're like, whoa, this is a whole other thing. And Kendra, talk us through the investigation. Obviously, these two are lovers. They've got all their interests aligned. There's no reason why either one should squeal on the other or blame the other person. They're going to stick together in solidarity, and the detectives are never going to be able to crack this. Why don't you take us through exactly what happened in that investigation?
So obviously, as you would with any investigation, unless you are the worst detective on Earth, they are separated and they're questioned separately. Gypsy gives an initial story that Nick had these dark fantasies of murdering Dee Dee and taking Gypsy from her home. And while, yes, Gypsy was in love with him and wanted to marry him, she never wanted him to hurt her mother. She never wanted to have any of this happen. Nick basically, in her initial interview, essentially just came in, did what he wanted to do, raped her, and then convinced her to leave with him. Nick's interview, on the other hand, he cracks pretty quickly. Again, Nick is an individual who has autism and a low IQ. I say "and" to clarify that just because you have autism does not mean you have a low IQ or that you're capable of doing these things. I'm just throwing that out there. But this is what he had. And he claimed to have multiple personalities and hear voices, for which he was taking medication. He wasn't at the time of this murder, but this is stuff that he's providing to the detective. And the detective basically plays on his emotion for Gypsy and says, if you love her, and in his words, he worships her, then you're going to do right by her, and you need to be honest, because it's not fair for her to be telling the truth and for you to lie. And this immediately cracks him, and he admits to killing Dee Dee, and that Gypsy wanted him to, asked him to, so they could be together. Nick admitted to stabbing Dee Dee 4 times. It turns out she was stabbed 17 times and nearly decapitated. And the knife that he used was stolen from Walmart by Gypsy. Then
That's
says
the part
that
pushes me over the edge is the retail theft.
Yes. You just can't stand for that, huh?
No.
It's just too much for you.
I gave my life, in the form of 2 years of being employed part-time to Target to stop that sort of thing. So no, it doesn't sit right with me.
This is personal.
Now it's personal. The attack on one of us is attack on all of us.
I was going to say, you'd be happy to know it was Walmart, not Target, but I guess the solidarity.
No, actually it's not true. When I was in loss prevention, all the retailers got together every month and we all shared intelligence because the same people that hit Target hit Walmart. So no.
That's true. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this is Nick said, I'll admit it. I stabbed her mom. That's what he said. And that's pretty much the gist of his interview. They obviously go back and talk to Gypsy, and she kind of she's like, all right, I'll tell you the truth. She obviously doesn't tell the whole truth, but she basically says yeah, I did know this was going to happen. I don't think she ever admitted to asking him to until later at Nick's trial when she was a witness for the defense. She did.
Well, yeah, but all their emails and all their correspondence
exactly.
and all that stuff, all their interactions on, Christian Mingle or whatever it was. And it's all laid out there on paper. All that stuff that you think is discrete conversations that you're having on the internet, it's all discoverable and it can be used against you. So, make sure you keep that in mind. So the entire plan was hashed out. Texting. So the whole thing's discoverable. The whole thing's planned out. They know that at one point, Gypsy had said, I need to get in touch with your evil side. I need evil Nick to do something, and so, and just the planning stages where, she's like, hey, I stole this knife. And Nick, is like, the evil side of me would also need duct tape, it's just very.
It's like when a pregnant woman is like, the baby wants ice cream. You have to go get me ice cream because that's what the baby wants.
It's just weird the way that these two, they're very infantile people, right? You have adults here who have different degrees of functioning, one through abuse and neglect, and the other through just the way he was born. What struck me on this case is these 3 people, not great people. And when she meets and interacts with Nick, I'm just like, what are the odds that one other person on earth and it's your captive mother who abuses you and uses you as a cash cow and straps you down and beats you with a hanger and threatens to smash your fingers and gives you drugs and unnecessary surgeries. One person on earth, and that's it. Then the second person, is this guy. It's you don't get any luck at all. You're just going to know these 2 people. Fuck, you just do not have a chance. And so, I think Gypsy Rose is kind of a bad person by virtue of the fact that she never got to know a good person or behave normally. And I think she did fairly well for at least wanting normative desires of a life outside of being a crippled person or whatever, and being smart enough to figure out how to set up her own discrete, communications and things like this. She's obviously a smart person for someone who's never been extensively educated. And what's interesting now is that when people interview her now, she talks about what a great life she has in prison because she's got some kind of structure. She's got people who are around her that she can, again, not great people to get to know, but she can make friends. She can get up. She can have a routine. She can walk around. She's allowed to grow out her hair. She could go get something to eat. She could pursue her own interests. She has downtime in the library. I think she had pursued her GED. And so it's just amazing. It shows how bad her life was that going to prison was a step up for her. She's in many ways, she's getting the formality of school or the structure of school or the socialization of a different environment of just not being a shut-in. She's getting some things that she needs. And I was sad to hear that she has a pen pal of some kind, which just never works out for her. And I wish she would figure that out. But that there's some sort of man in her life who's interested in becoming Mr. Gypsy Rose. And I don't know if they're still planning on getting married or if that's even already happened, because in marriages or weddings inside the walls happen. But
Well, I was gonna, yeah.
It seems like Gypsy, you should just be your own person. Like you've already had the whole family thing, and you've already had the romantic relationship thing by way of communication from a great distance. Maybe you should just do your own thing.
Well, I was gonna say, you said it, but I was just thinking, like, if your life is so bad that being in prison is the highlight of your life, and that's the point that makes you feel the most normal, is very telling of what Gypsy went through. And I'm not condoning murder, or obviously, but I am a little sympathetic with where she's coming from, because
she's definitely got those mitigating circumstances that we've talked about before.
Yes.
You know, and everything that she did it really was in the context of everything that happened to her. I mean,
trying to escape.
You just can't discount it, because her life was so abnormal, and so everything that was going on with the victim of this case, it was so destructive to her own life that, you know, it's like battered woman syndrome, but like to the fullest extent, because she never had her own life. You know, it wasn't like there was any point where she had a prior relationship where she was ever outside of anyone's control.
Right. So after the interviews, obviously they go to court. Gypsy pleads guilty to second-degree murder, where she's sentenced to 10 years in prison and possibility of parole after, I think, 3 years. I think that she probably took the plea deal because she was looking at a first-degree murder charge, which I don't think they would have been able to do, but
yeah, because she wasn't the one that actually stabbed her mom. I mean, she was a co-conspirator in that, but it would also be hard to make a first-degree stick, just because anyone's going to have sympathy for her, where they're not going to have any for Nick.
Right. There were too many mitigating circumstances to, I think, go to trial, and they probably gave her a decent plea deal because they knew that. And also, she would give information about Nick, who was the one that did the murder.
State's witness for Nick. Nick still says that was the best time of his life, which just shows how shitty his life has been too.
Well,
he said I loved her. She's my soulmate, and the time that I spent with her, killing her mom, almost as good as those 9 hours I once spent in a McDonald's.
That day and those 9 hours will forever be my highlight of my life. Nick went to trial for the charge of first-degree murder. He was found guilty, and he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Gypsy was actually a defense witness, and when she took the stand, she said that she planned this out, and she did ask Nick to kill her mom. So it comes out in the wash, but yeah, it's just it's very sad all the way around, because, like you said, all three of these people are broken, and they all have their own issues, and it was just like the perfect storm of shit. And Dee Dee is now dead because of it. So
I don't care about Dee Dee.
By her own, yeah. Well,
this is Gypsy Rose now. She's like happy to be in prison. You can see her; she's in her prison garb. She's just happy she has hair. She's like, look, I have hair, but I'm not. I don't have like some horrible disease, and I don't have to use a wheelchair here in prison. Like, she actually first of all, her hair looks styled. Her hair is very curled.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that they have some way of making rollers hot in prison or something, because I don't know. I don't know how she would have curled her hair.
Well, now she can curl it with a curling iron, because she was released on the 28th of December.
What?
She is no longer in prison.
She was released in the past?
Yes, she was released in the past.
In fact, just released just 4 or 5 days ago, depending on whatever day is today, huh?
Yep. She was released after serving 85% of her prison sentence, and she was supposed to get out in 2026, but she's a free woman now. She's out walking around, and Nick is still in prison, probably pining for her and reminiscing on the fun times that he had, killing her mother and then making her clean it up naked, and then having sex with her and running away and going to McDonald's.
Yeah. Whenever they have French fries in the chow hall, it gets a little randy.
Officer Randy.
Sorry. Officer Randy did not approve of that. McDonald's is for families.
Oh my God. I will arrest anyone who goes in there for 9 hours, whether they've done anything wrong or not.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just being there that long is at least loitering.
True.
Yes.
One of the things that you and I have discussed prior on the show, which I think is a good time to talk about, is why people plead not guilty when they have evidence stacked against them, why they go to trial. Something that a lot of podcasters who don't understand criminal investigation do talk about that. They're like, why does this asshole think he's going to get away with it?
This piece of shit said not guilty. Where does he get the gall to say he's not guilty? They found him covered in blood with a knife in his hands. How could he say he's not guilty? That liar. He's lying. That's
Guess what?
Say.
Guess what? If you plead guilty, you don't get a trial. So there are many purposes of trial. One of them, in the case of Nick, is that you go to get a lesser sentence or a lesser charge. And in the case of Nick Godejohn, his attorneys were not disputing the fact that he murdered Dee Dee. He confessed to it. There's evidence. That is not why people plead not guilty. They do it because Nick was looking at first-degree murder, which carries a life sentence, or the potential of getting a second-degree murder based on the mitigating circumstances that he is, in fact, mentally impaired and that he is easily manipulated and that he was basically conned into doing this murder. That would be a second-degree murder, and that carries a sentence of 10 years to life.
Missouri also has the death penalty. So if what if he had been like an idiot vampire where he said like, forget it, I'm guilty, and they don't strike a plea bargain. So the judges are like, okay, we're going to move to sentencing phase. And just so you know, you're eligible for the death penalty. So
yep. And that's why
you're basically committing like some version of legal suicide here by saying that you're guilty and you're not going to explore your options. You're not going to exercise your rights. When you say I'm not guilty, you're not saying I'm innocent. You're saying I want to go through the process. I want to use the rights afforded to me by the Constitution to explore the entire process and get through this using my rights to the most favorable outcome for me, even if it's going to result in a conviction. There's also rolling the dice. You get a jury that believes you, lets you off completely scot-free. There's some dumb juries out there. There's some really good lawyers out there. There's always a chance by pleading not guilty, you could walk away from that and have nothing happen. So why wouldn't you take that chance, particularly when you're up against a life sentence or a death sentence? Roll the dice. You may as well do that. But at the same time, so people will plead not guilty because they want the trial. People will also plead nolo contendere or no contest. Mm-hmm. And the reason they'll do that is because they don't want a trial, but they also don't want to make an admission. So why would you do that? Well, you might plead no contest saying you're essentially pleading guilty. You're saying I did it and I'm ready to accept the punishment for it, but I'm not admitting in a court of law that I did this. You're basically saying I don't want to have a contest. I don't want to have a trial. I don't want to fight it. Let's skip to the end. Well, the reason you would do that is like any kind of civil penalty that you might have afterwards, a conviction or a guilty plea could be entered as evidence against you. And so if you say, I'm guilty, I did this, let's just get on with it, that's you elocuting to a crime. It's an admission, and that can come into civil things later. So if you don't want to go through this long, drawn-out criminal process, you want to skip to the end, assuming that the sentence that you're going to get is not as egregious as life or death. You also don't want that to be used against you in a suit. A civil suit, you don't want to get sued. So that's why you would plead no contest or no trial or whatever. So there's reasons why people plead things, and it has nothing to do with their audacity. It's, a trial is a proceeding, and it has to be handled appropriately. And it's almost like people just don't understand that basic level.
No, they don't. And I think any good defense attorney would push a client who has a not diminished, but a lower IQ. And he is very easily manipulated, okay? But there are certain things you are and are not allowed to take into real consideration as a jury, and there are certain standards when you're talking about somebody who has a diminished capacity, that they have to meet certain requirements. You can't just be like, oh, well, poor guy, yeah, he was manipulated, we'll find him not guilty. You can't do that. There's certain boxes that need to be checked, and a good attorney understands that and would encourage their client to go to trial so that they could potentially get a lesser sentence. The attorneys in this case never ever thought in a million years that they would go into that trial and get a not guilty and he would walk free. It's not the purpose of the trial. The purpose was to save him from life imprisonment. During the trial, there were two clinical psychologists, one for the state, one for the defense. They disagreed on his mental capacity. The state psychologist said that he was fine, and he showed many signs through their planning of this and through video surveillance of them getting on buses and him just interacting with people around him. And then, so that was the state psychologist, and he said he was fine, right? The defense psychologist said that he had plenty signs that he's got these mental issues and all that, including the schizophrenia and the DID and some sort of psychotic break when he was 13 and all this stuff. As a juror, it's a very tough thing to do, and this is part of the reason why I am on the fence when it comes to having jury trials, because a layperson is what they call them. Like you're not an attorney, you're not law enforcement, you're not in the world, you're just
your peer.
You're a peer, right? So you didn't go to law school, you don't fully understand necessarily what goes into it. And part of the opening statements and everything, and the judge gives them a speech about how, as a juror, you're only allowed to consider XYZ when you're deliberating. But that's very difficult for somebody to do who has never had to separate their emotional body from their logic or their just looking at a case, just looking at facts and nothing outside of it, and not letting their biases come into play or whatever. So there's always a chance, like you said, that you get a jury with most people who lead with their emotions and they just feel bad, maybe. And you could walk away with a not guilty plea, but that's very rare. I mean, most people are pretty with it, but there's a lot of reasons. I'm just saying there's a lot of reasons why people go to trial, even though they know that they've done the crime that they're being charged with. It just
not to mention billable hours. Why wouldn't you want to have the lawyer advise not guilty? That way
right.
Yeah, I could do more work and this will put
right.
my kid through college.
So that was my little soapbox. That irritates me a lot when they're like, why would you plead not guilty? You know you did it. Like, because there's a legal reason why. It's called procedure. It's not saying not guilty because I didn't do it.
Yeah, it's not audacity. It's just what you're supposed to tell the judge so that the trial begins.
Correct. So anyway, there's that.
Yeah. All right, Kendra's full activated. She's mad for 2024. We look forward to another year of broadcasting these true crime podcasts with a former cop and a guy who's a 911 dispatcher. Failure to Stop's a whole family of shows. On Sunday, you can catch Conservative Ant talk about conspiracies. On Monday night, there's some live comedy with J. Darrell White. We're here every Tuesday to upset you with stories of true crime that have actually happened in your lifetime and others. Wednesday has all the political news that you need to stay informed so you don't sound like an asshole. Thursday is the sports show, folks. It's almost the playoffs. Gearing up for that. So catch us on Thursday. It's described as very funny, not just by my mom. Friday is the big show where Eric and Tyler break down stories from the Thin Blue Line and also just other cool shit going on in the world. We appreciate you supporting us. Support our sponsors. You can find Kendra online at the Instagram handle of True Crime Drama. And
it's True Crime
underscore. Yeah. And one of my favorite marks. And I'm difficult to look at pictures without any marks because I didn't have time for that. So if you want to interact with me on the internet, you can do that at difficult to look at pictures. We just got done last week. We did a Kendra does Patreon episode. We're looking to do more of those. So if you're a cop, if you're a 911 dispatcher, if you're someone who works a beat, or if you just have a real good true crime story of something that happened to you, email it to truecrimedrama@gmail.com. And that'll be in part of a future episode. So we like involving you guys, the audience, in our true crime show. Thank you so much for.
Just to clarify real quick, sorry to interrupt you, but
every time you interrupt me, I want to cry. Go ahead.
Drama is spelled with a J. It's J-R-A-M-A. I just have to clarify because that's happened before where someone's trying to find drama like with D-R, and that's not how it's spelled.
You shouldn't have tried to be unique or to pay homage to an HBC.
I know. It never fucking pays off.
No, nothing does. All right. Why look forward to life with a sentiment like that? Anyway, thanks so much for watching the show. We appreciate you out there in the Wolf Pack. Thanks for watching our show live. We appreciate you guys. We'll see you next week. And remember,
Stay safe. And don't get yourself true crimed or whatever.
Whatever. That's our sign
Whatever.
off here. Our new sign off is not. It's just whatever, man. Hey, whatever, man.
Whatever.